advise all of you to go to researcher.academy and create an account. It's a free e-learning solution. It helps in, for example, if you want to find how to write a grant proposals. They have so many advices in career building, how to write books. So many webinars and teachings here. So I really advise you to join researcheracademy.com. And again, please go ahead and subscribe to our Elsevier Africa YouTube channel. All webinars are recorded and uploaded here. It's also one way of communicating. Like if you have any questions, you can just leave them on the comment section and we'll get back to you. So please join our Elsevier Africa YouTube channel, and also the brighttalk.com/Elsevier's training webinars, where you will find all webinars conducted by Elsevier so far on all solutions, which we may not cover here on this webinar. So, or if you miss this webinar as well, you can find the recording here. So all tools are very free tools, which you can just go ahead and create an account for. So now we can begin to our solution, know your tools, ScienceDirect. So ScienceDirect is a full text database. It has over 3,800 journals, which means you will never miss any new or upcoming or trending topics in your specific area. Over more than 37,000 books, over 14 million peer-reviewed publications. So whatever topic that you're searching for, peer-reviewed, relevant literature, and it has a full text database, which means you can download the full paper from ScienceDirect. There are journals Elsevier hosts. Right, so like I said, Elsevier ScienceDirect is a high quality interdisciplinary research. In 2018, 31% of Elsevier journals were ranked #1. You can see here, we have 18% of article shares and 26% of citation shares from ScienceDirect. It's also more than just a full text database. It's a ScienceDirect platform. So it's a ScienceDirect platform. It ensures that you stay ahead as a researcher. There's a tool called ScienceDirect Topics. It supports researchers by defining and clearly interpreting new concepts during interdisciplinary research. So whenever you're reading and going through the topic that you're more familiar with, you may find some concepts or some statements which you are not familiar with yet. So ScienceDirect supports you by defining those concepts and giving you for those concepts. So this really eases your research. Its ScienceDirect topics includes a short description and all the related terms, as well as recommended readings on the topic itself. So here you'll find the definition of the terms, and then it also gives you related terms that are that you may be more familiar with regarding those wordings. Whenever you go to ScienceDirect and look for a specific topic, on the left side, it gives you recommended articles. So this saves a lot of your time when you're searching for the topic. itself, and also, yeah, so some analytics were done by Elsevier um, for the Consortium of Ethiopian Academic and Research Libraries, and it was found that over 1,000 working days were saved just by using ScienceDirect recommendations. This is a lot of working days. ScienceDirect is also a very fast. On average, search results can be, you can find your search results in 2.8 seconds. So it really saves time. Yeah. So let's see how you can sign in or get access to ScienceDirect. Number one is to create a user account. When you go to the ScienceDirect website, Elsevier's website, you'll find, and then click on the create account icon. This will show up, create an account. It's a very easy step. All you have to do is write your first name, family name, and your institutional email address. Please make sure to use your institutional email address rather than your personal address here. Khalid will go through on how to access this solutions while you're at home. And then please create a password, possibly a password that you will not forget, that is easily rememberable to you. And then you're all set. You can set up alerts for such queries. You can receive recommendation, and yeah, access ScienceDirect remotely as well. And creating an account is it's free. And then while searching, this is just very basic. ScienceDirect gives you two different options. Number one, you can just search a broad topic. You can come here on the keywords section, or author name, or journal book title if you know the title. Usually I just go for the keywords and just search for example, economic growth or climate change, and then you can just go for a search. Or the second option is to go for an advanced search. This will just narrow down the research articles that you specifically want for this. I'll just go through each now. So for the search, when you search for a specific keyword, it gives you the titles. You can see here, for example, there are over 600,000 results for the title, for the keyword search. And then you can filter it out by year, by article type, by publication type, or access type, whichever filter type you want. You can just go for it. Or if you need to like specify exactly what you want, you can go for the advanced search icon, and you will have this this on your screen. You can write exactly, for example, the title that you want, and it's ScienceDirect accepts Boolean operators, like you can say and, or, and not. You can use semicolons, which means you want to just find, for example, a semicolon heart attack. You just want to find documents that include heart attack only. If you want to include, for example, articles related to depression but not economic depression, you can just use a hyphen. You can state depression hyphen economics. This will give you documents, articles that include just depression but not economic depression. But this you will find on the advanced search tool. You will get recommendation based on your previous search and histories, and your activities on ScienceDirect. You can also get set up alerts. It's a bit different with recommendations, because with recommendations you get all the articles and related to your search. It doesn't matter when they were published. But for your alerts, you will get only articles that were just published, newly published articles, which matches your search history. And then we do strive to make our solutions very easy to use. But in case you need support, please feel free to just go scroll down to ScienceDirect page, and you will find a contact and support icon, and you can just click on that and we will get back to you right away. We also love your feedback. Please feel free to give feedback on any of the Elsevier solutions. We're happy to hear from you all the time. Thank you. Khalid, I think I will hand over to you for the remote access to ScienceDirect part.
Thank you, Hermina. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Khalid. Africa, responsible for ScienceDirect, Scopus, and Mendeley, which we call the Elsevier Core Research Solutions. Let me know if you can hear me well. And I'll be sharing my screen as well. So you should be are you able to see my screen now? Please type in chat, let me know. And also, we are launching a poll. We need to know a bit about you to see how we could help a bit better. So there are a few questions that should pop up now. It's a short poll, mainly a few questions, what best describes your field, your role in the university, if you had any issues logging onto Zoom, where you're currently working from, and whether or not you have an institutional email. We highly appreciate your participation with the poll. Before we can start the part discussing how you could access ScienceDirect as well as other solutions as Scopus and SciVal from home. And the main idea that we have is with lockdown affecting our lives everywhere globally, everybody is turning now to researchers to ask for researchers support, how researchers can help our solutions. If you're working on COVID, then everybody's waiting for your input as a researcher or as an academic. If you're a librarian, there is a huge influx of information that needs to be managed, and how to get through all the booming amount of literature. If you're a researcher or any other topic, this is really now the time for research. This is the time to actually help make this world a better place. And we do believe that on our end, our part is to help support you with the access to information, to the solutions that can help you with your research while you are working from home. So far we've already had some answers to our poll. It's good. I'll be continuing through while the rest, if they can participate as well on that poll. So once again, I'd like to welcome you all to this section of our presentation today. So as far as it goes for the remote access to ScienceDirect, the very basic answer to remote access is to have an institutional email, but there are other options that we could have as well if you don't have access to your institutional email as well. So the first thing, if you have an institutional email, what you would need to do is scroll down on any page on ScienceDirect and find the remote access button, or it might be a bit easier if you just visit directly bit.ly/sd-eg. And once you've opened that link, or for some of you, if they try to sign in, you should find a screen like this one. So it will be asking you to put in your email or your institution name. By email here, we mean your institutional emails. If you have an institutional email, please insert your institutional email. It should be recognized that, and you will be prompted that you will be sent an email for confirmation that you are actually from your university. And currently recognizes a good deal of the Ethiopian universities. If your institutional email is not recognized for any reason, please get in contact with me. I'll be leaving you my email as well as, and also I'll be sharing my phone number on chat where you can reach out via WhatsApp and Telegram as well. But please get in contact if your institutional email is not recognized here. Moreover, some of you might see the screen a bit different when they open that link. If it looks like this, it works just the same. And you would need to just put in your institutional email and click on continue. Either way, it should be recognized, and sometimes it might ask you which institution are you intending. If not, it will tell you, okay, we need to make sure that you're from this university, and we're going to be sending you an email with a link to activate remote access. If you not get that link, email, please check spam or junk. Once that you have signed in, if you have an account, you'll be asked for the password. If you don't, you might need to register a new account. And the idea is, if you don't have an institutional email, what you would need to do is to get in contact with your university librarian. They will be able to send you a registration code and password that will make your own personal email work on ScienceDirect and recognize and recognize you as a member of the institution, actually. So what you would need, once you receive the registration code and password from your librarian, you would need to visit sciencedirect.com/register, put in the registration ID and the redemption password, and then you will need to sign in with your already existing ScienceDirect account or register a new account, and thus your account should be set. Any other time when you visit ScienceDirect, what you would need to do is to go for, on any article, once you have set up the remote access, you would need to get access or sign into that article to access. One other thing that we need to add as well is that all Elsevier textbooks have now been added to your subscriptions. This is a global initiative by Elsevier, because we know that classes are running now from home. Everybody is struggling globally with how to have classes without a campus that is working in most of the cases. In part, we believe that students might need to be doing more research-based assessments or to do readings that could be followed up with emails or messaging or online meetings or online webinars like the ones we're having. So we believe that access to textbooks might be useful. So when you activate your remote access, you should find that your subscriptions not only include Elsevier journals. So Ethiopian universities have access to almost all of Elsevier journals provided by the Consortium of Ethiopian Academic and Research Libraries, CERL. But for a limited period, all Elsevier partners will have access to Elsevier textbooks. So these are around 260 titles, and they will be accessible till August 31st, 2020. What you would need to do is to download, what you need to do is just to access your ScienceDirect account remotely. And you will, the list of the textbooks that are accessible in Excel file is available on the link you can see on screen. So let's do a little bit of, also we need to be touching base on Scopus. It's a very, very powerful research solution that you have access to. So what Scopus is Scopus is the largest abstract and citation database of peer-reviewed research globally. And the idea is, so Scopus collects the abstracts and information about the research published from more than 5,000 publishers. So this is a bit expanding beyond the Elsevier content provided on ScienceDirect to getting insights and information on what's going on the entire research scene, globally speaking. And the idea of, so what? What do I gain out of this? And the idea is you want to keep a tab, to keep an eye, to be following up what is the most recent literature, what is the research that's being done. If you want to do a literature review, you need to make sure that you have covered thoroughly all that has been published and can be trusted on the matter. Elsevier is the world's largest publisher, but the world's largest STM publisher publishes 18%. So ScienceDirect can give you insights to 18% of very high quality research. Scopus can help you expand your perspective and also see the research that's going on the entire academic field. So then again, Scopus, so there is around 100,000 scientific titles, only 43,000 of which by our estimate are peer-reviewed. And of those, we index about half of what's being peer-reviewed. It's very important to be peer-reviewed, to have this literature, these research carefully examined by experts before it was published. But also, we realize now that not everything that claim to be peer-reviewed is actually peer-reviewed, is actually of good quality. We only index and include in our database quality research that you can actually trust. So it's what we call curated content. So moving ahead, so there is data from 5,000 publishers. There is more than 75 million records. Actually, the number has gone up. There's more than so Scopus automatically, whenever a new paper is published by a journal that is indexed to Scopus, Scopus retrieves the data from this paper to know who are the authors, what are their affiliations, and it starts combining different papers published by the same author into what we call an author profile. This is automatically generated, and all the new papers related to the same author are grouped together to give insights on the productivity of this researcher. This is also done on the affiliation level as well. The content for Scopus dates back to 1970 on most records that are working till back then, and we even have some records going older than 1970, in some cases going as back as 300 years, 200 years ago more. Also, one thing we are really proud about with Scopus is that its content, the research it covers and indexes in the database is not only coming from advanced nations. We are proud that we are working with, we try to find quality local journals available in Africa, in South America, and in South Asia, and find out which we reach out to we actively reach out to journals, and we ask them to apply. The decision for the indexation is taken independently by an academic committee. So we cannot really guarantee indexation for any journal, but we strongly we try to advise journals on what are the best practices to get to meet Scopus quality standards and actually to have more balanced global representation as well. Lastly, the coverage for Scopus covers all fields of science. So there are physical sciences, health sciences, life sciences, as well as social sciences and humanities. And you can see our presentation that so it expands beyond Elsevier, containing content from different publishers globally as well. One important idea is that university ranking agencies, they rely on data from Scopus when they assess the research output of a specific university. For example, Times Higher Education and QS World Ranking, they rely exclusively on Scopus data to assess the performance of a university in their ranking system when it comes to research. So this is a little bit of a summary of the current updated content on Scopus. And as I told you again, Scopus does not have the full text, but it is there to help you discover what literature you should be reading, whether it comes from Elsevier or any other publisher as well. It has the abstract, so you are able to save time and realize if you really need to read that paper or not. And all the research is peer-reviewed on Scopus. As I said before, there is a very long process for scrutinizing any journal before for how it works, before it can get indexed into Scopus. If you are running a local journal in Ethiopia, or if you know an editor for a journal, please get in contact to us. We can send you more details on the quality standards implemented by Scopus and how you could get your journal to be indexed in Scopus as well. So also Scopus, when any new paper that is published by a journal that is indexed to Scopus, we collect data about the title, the abstract, the authors, their affiliations, and the keywords left by the author. And we also collect data about funding. And most importantly, we collect the list of references from each paper indexed. So we are able to track who cited whom. And so you can see that Scopus tracks citations. And one important thing is citations are really pivotal to assessing research output, to understanding the effect created by those research papers, by the effect created by the research paper on the academic community generally, by assessing how many people actually endorsed and used this paper in their latter research as well. So moving forwards, Scopus, when you do a search on Scopus, so for example, what difference would I get if I do a search on Scopus versus if I do a search on a web engine, like for example something like a Google or Bing or any other search engine? The main idea is there are three important things that you need to know. You're not looking at the internet at large, meaning that you will be only looking for scientific literature that is peer-reviewed, that is published in quality journals that follow quality scientific standards of peer review, so you can actually trust this kind of research. So you're not just getting any results. That's one point. The second point that you need to know is that so instead of doing a search on a search engine and getting 3 million results, most of which you cannot trust, you now can have less amount of only trustworthy literature to read. But the idea is, if I tell you that you get your search results, so you have 100,000 or 50,000 search results, the question is, what do you need 50,000 results for? And there's actually something you can do with those 50,000 results. You can actually filter them very effectively to find out which papers you should actually read and how you should prioritize your reading. So if you're reading 40 or 50 papers, for example, you need to be able to select those very important papers you're going to be reading out of the search results. So it has very advanced filtration capacity for your search results. And the second thing is you can get, as you can see on screen, overall statistics for this research. So for example, if I get 100,000 search results, I'm not able to go through 100,000 search results or titles, but it's very interesting to see what are the actual statistics for those research results. So for example, if I'm doing a search on a topic like infectious disease, for example, I want to see, okay, what was the response for example, what was the annual volume of publications coming out on this topic year to year? Who are the top authors working on this kind of field? and which journals are interested in this. So this can help you figure out which journals you should follow as a reader, or which journals you should target as an author of research that you have already done. You can also see all different of breakdowns as well. Next, as I told you, is that Scopus generate author profiles automatically. So whenever you start publishing papers, and those papers are published in journals that are indexed into Scopus, you would need to do nothing really, because Scopus will generate an author profile on your stead. But the thing is, sometimes it happens because our names is not in English originally. So sometimes there are different spellings for the same name. Sometimes one of your if you are a co-author on a paper and your name was written in a non-preferred spelling, for example. Another example is that there are people who change the last name after marriage, for example. And so if Scopus is not 100% that this new paper belongs to that author, Scopus will prefer to create a new author profile instead of misallocating a paper to an author who did not publish it. So sometimes you would need to go onto Scopus, search for your author profile, and while you search for your author profile, if you find duplicates created for your author profile with a slight difference in name, for example, you can actually request for these author profiles to be merged together. Another initiative that's called the ORCID. The ORCID is a global initiative where each author requests a very unique serial number that you can add to your publications, and it would help Scopus attribute all the papers by the same ORCID to the same author profile. So you can go to Scopus, find your author profile, find there are duplicates, and add in your ORCID number to make sure all your new literature is attributed to your profile. It shows up on your research metrics like the H index, for example. So there are all kinds of research metrics, as I just described on Scopus. There are article level metrics. So if a research paper, how many times it were cited, how many times it were downloaded or viewed, did it get mentioned, for example, in social media or in mainstream media, for example, like a news coverage, for example. That's one thing. Another thing is the journal level metrics. And you've heard about the journal quartiles, the site score, the SJR, the SNP. These are all numbers to evaluate the journal's standing. Is it how influential and powerful is it within the academic field? And there are researcher level metrics. What's the total count of publications? What are the total count of citations? Average citation per paper for the author, and very famously, the H index for the H index as well. So how do you get access to Scopus? It works a bit easier even than ScienceDirect. What you would need to do is just open scopus.com, click on check Scopus access, and insert your institutional email if you have an institutional email, or you could just sign in with your institutional email and it would work. Once you've activated the remote access on Scopus, it would be activated also on SciVal as well if your university because some Ethiopian universities have access to SciVal as well. So this is you could just sign in directly into Scopus with your institutional email if you have one. If you don't have an institutional email, please remember that you can reach out to your university librarian to request a registration code and password. They should be able to provide those, and with the link to put those and activate your institutional subscription to your personal email as well. So that would cover our part on introducing a bit of ScienceDirect and Scopus. I'll be going back to Hermila again, who's gonna walk us through Mendeley before we go into our last, I'll be back again to cover the next section after that for the COVID-19 resources as well. So
Yeah.
back to you,
Thank you,
Hermila.
Khalid. Thank you. Okay, I think I can also share my screen. Okay. 1 minute. Yeah. So, yeah, I hope you can hear me clearly now. I was having some internet connection problems before. So Mendeley, like I said before, is my best Elsevier solution. It's a free software available across a number of platforms. It helps in organizing your resources, the references that you've downloaded or you're using for your paper, and it's also an academic social network where you can create groups or you can join in on groups to discuss on academic issues. So Mendeley is really one of my favorites. It can help you organize your research, collaborate with others online, and discover the latest research. It works across different platforms. You can download it on Windows, Mac, Linux, mobile. If you have a tablet, you could just download it in any of the devices that you prefer to use. So Mendeley as a reference manager, it adds documents or references to Mendeley library. You can personally organize your library, and then you can insert citations to your document. I usually use Word documents, so to your Word documents, and insert a bibliography as well. So how do you do it? It's very easy. You can just go create an account on www.mendeley.com and sign up. Your name, your email address, preferably institutions, but if you don't have that, you can use your personal email address. And then you can sign up for free. And once you sign up, a window comes up asking you to download a window Mendeley desktop. You don't have to download it right away, but it's a very recommended. Once you download Windows desktop Mendeley, you can just organize your files. You can go to the file icon and import all the documents that you have from other reference managers like EndNote, Research Information System, RIS. Yeah, and you can just store your documents there. You can select a file from your folder. You can also drag and drop documents here to your Mendeley desktop. So yeah, I'm gonna try and show you if you can see. Okay, I'm just gonna try and show you my Mendeley desktop, what it looks like. So here on the left side, you can organize your library as you want. This, you can see unsorted files. All these documents are unsorted. So all the documents that I've downloaded and have not put in a specific folder are put here. I have also created a folder called Climate Change and Milk. And these are files that I want when I'm writing a paper on climate change and milk production. I've used all these papers and I've put them in one folder. So if you ever want to create a folder, there's this icon, create folder. Yeah, it's very easy. If you want to import, you just go to files, import. For example, I have some RIS downloaded documents here, and it automatically puts it in my Mendeley desktop. And then it's here on the right, it tells you there's a description of the paper. You can just read the title, who is the author, and then there's the abstract. And the nice thing about another nice thing about Mendeley is you can write notes on this specific paper or documents that you have, and it stores it. Even when you come back after a year, you can find all these notes. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my slides. Another thing which will help you when you're reading and would like to download this paper to your Mendeley desktop is Mendeley Web Importer. You can just install it in your computer in just one click. You can just search for Mendeley Web Importer, install it, and then whenever it makes it very easy for you to download papers to your Mendeley desktop. So, and then it also gives you recommendations of other related topics as well. Another thing is whenever you're updating your Mendeley desktop, just make sure to sync so that the documents can be stored in the cloud. And whenever you want to, when you come back or when you go to another device and open your Mendeley desktop application, you can find all the stored data as well. Yes, like I said before, you can organize your library in however you want to. This icons here shows you what, for example, what this the icons next to your paper references. It shows you what they are. For example, it could be this icon means items added in the last 2 weeks. So it's very easy, user-friendly. I recommend it for undergraduates as well. If you are teaching undergraduates, I recommend it for you to just briefly show them how to use it as well. So for you to use as I said, Mendeley on your Word document, you should go to your Mendeley desktop tools and then install MS Word plugin. This will make sure that when you use a Word and you want to import citations or bibliographies from Mendeley desktop into your Word, this install MS Word plugin will make sure that that's possible. When you would like to generate in-text citation in Word, just go to References, Citations, and click on the reference that you would like to cite on the Mendeley desktop, and yeah, it just automatically generates it to your Word document. The same with bibliography. It's just one click away, insert bibliography, and in however format you would like it. For example, if you're using a Harvard style, you can just select which styles you would like to use, and Mendeley automatically generates that to your bibliography list. On a final note, it's very important for you to, in order to connect with other researchers in in the academic world, it's very important to finalize your profile on Mendeley. This will help the researcher community know who you are, who they're talking to, and it also helps you display the work that you've done, and also so that it will be people who are working in the same topics as you are can find you as well. Sorry. As a social network, it's really nice to create, it's a nice tool to create groups. You can create groups. It's very easy. You can just go to the website, groups, and then you can create a new group. You can make it a public group where everyone can see your content and share as well, or you can just make it private or invitees only, so that only limited or those people with access can view what you're sharing or your contents as well. Or you can also search and join groups, public groups that you are interested in as well. Yeah. Yeah, these are just the personal favorite features of Mendeley, which are you can personalize Mendeley's suggestion. You can find your data even years after, which is one of the best features of Mendeley. You can get full text PDFs, and it's very efficient to use, very easy to use, and it's very time saving as well. And with this, I will hand over to Khalid. Oh, I forgot one more thing. If you would like to see latest versions of Mendeley, the link here is mendeley.com/releases notes. So here you can download or update your Mendeley with the latest versions. Thank you. Khalid, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Hermina. I'll be sharing my screen again. So we are going to be touching down for the remaining of our webinar today. We'll be doing three things now. I'll be introducing some of the resources that we have, especially for the COVID-19, and regarding different fields and the response on how we could, the resources and the information you'd need to know to keep up with a huge boom in the research, and as everybody is trying to tackle and find out, study well the current pandemic and provide solutions from all kinds of fields, not just health sciences, also spanning to engineering, to R&D, to social sciences, economics, finance, business, and all of those resources as well. So one thing, to start with, so everything that we have on COVID-19 has been organized into one directory. So that directory is organized into different who's the reader is going to be. So there is a portal for, or a group of resources bundled together for healthcare providers. There are others for academic researchers, for health educators and students, for R&D professionals and engineers, health educators and students. That was a duplication for media covering COVID-19, as well as the librarians. So if I go over and click on this link, so you can see here, this is the novel coronavirus resource directory. If I try to work with this, if I scroll down a bit, so I can see as academic researchers what are the solutions you have. So there is the Novel Coronavirus Information Center, which I will get to next. Every research that we have on coronaviruses, the current COVID pandemic, previous coronavirus related disease like SARS or MERS or anything related to coronaviruses really, or the healthcare response to the current pandemic, is made free access for everyone everywhere. There is currently more than 27,000 articles available on ScienceDirect for free for everyone to read while this pandemic goes. There is what we call the Coronavirus Research Hub, and I'll be revisiting this point a bit later. You can see also there's infographics on what's going on the entire research community. This is obtained from our Scopus database. And there are some journals that are actually asking for publications related to COVID. For example, Hardware X is asking for any ideas on the hardware that would be needed to handle the coronavirus, whether it's, for example, innovations when it comes to healthcare devices or personal protective equipment. If you have new ideas, you can submit them to Hardware X journals. It's an open access journal, but it will be accepting submissions to publish on this for free. So it's going to be free to publish and free to read at the same time. So next is resources for health educators and students. So there is a hub for resources for teaching distantly, especially for medical students. There is the healthcare hub. It's everything that we have, not just journals and articles. There is also clinical guidelines, data on clinical trials, what's the recent, for example, guidelines and protocols and healthcare resources that are used by healthcare professionals working on the front lines in hospitals, in ER rooms, in ICU, in intensive care units as well. There are resources for librarians on handling the current pandemic as well, and there are resources for media, in addition to the R&D professionals and engineers as well. So there is a page that is dedicated, for example, on engineering resources against the COVID-19 specifically as well. So you can go through it, and it's continuously curated with the resources for engineers handling this. So it's categorized into emergency, prevention, preparedness, response, recovery, and industry news as well. So that's the first item that we have. If we go back to the slides, our next thing is the Novel Coronavirus Information Center. And this information center, so if I go to it, there is a link for it on this page as well. Yes, it's here. The Novel Coronavirus Information Center. So this is one page continuously updated. So you can see here, it was last updated yesterday. So I believe it's run by a team in the US. So it's still the new working day of May 20th, haven't started yet. And it's categorized into clinical information, Chinese language portal, because this was created back when COVID-19 was only an epidemic running in only China. But we started that page then. Research and drug discovery, public health, and patient resources. And this is continuously updated. So podcast series, medical health resources, all in one page, and it's a continuous stream. It's like a blog that's always updated with the new things coming on top. And as you can see here, so a lot of resources, a lot of research, and more. And we did mention SSRN when we were discussing it a bit earlier. So during the current pandemic, you might have heard of a lot of, it's been very trending to say that there is a preprint saying so and so, or there is a working paper saying so and so. What difference is it between preprints and working papers? A preprint is a paper that was submitted to a journal for peer review, and the author decided to share it publicly, because most journals allow this really, unless it's a double-blind journal, for example. But most journals allow authors to share the version of the unpeer-reviewed, the unreviewed version of their article. They allow them to share it publicly online. So this is also a part as well. Another thing is preprint. Elsevier has SSRN, Social Science Research Network. It started with social science, but now it expanded far beyond social science to include actually health sciences, life sciences, physical sciences as well. And these are the current preprints. One thing that you need to remember, a preprint is an idea that was submitted for peer review. It's not peer reviewed yet, but it is always good to keep an eye on the early stage research to know what are people discussing currently that has not yet been published. You need to handle the information you will get out of a preprint critically, especially if you're not specialized in the field, because experts on the field, the peer reviewers, have not yet peer reviewed this. But these are, as you can see here, some ideas are very interesting that even though as preprints, they are attracting a lot of downloads, for example. So you can see that this preprint was downloaded 800 times in just 1 week, for example. You can visit the SSRN here and find more information on this. As you can see here, so this is the coronavirus response. So anything that you'll find on SSRN is actually free, and it's actually, it's always good to get your research early on out there and start getting feedback for it as well. One thing that we did notice is that some communities actually started, some academic communities started having a lot of research posted, open access research as well, posted on SSRN in local language. So for example, we've seen this happen in Russia, in Poland, in Israel, for example, where there are a lot of research that's being showcased as well in the local languages, especially in social science. But back again, so these are more of the resources that you can find here as well. Third thing I would like to say on the COVID-19, we currently have what's called Elsevier Coronavirus Research Hub. So what this is if you are an academic researcher working on life science, or you're a data scientist or a clinical researcher working for a university or a government, so what you would need to do is just log onto the Elsevier COVID-19 Research Hub, and you can request personal access to any solution Elsevier has that can help you with your research, as long as it tackles COVID-19, and it will be temporary access till November, or depending on how long this current pandemic goes. So just to view, so this is the Coronavirus Research Hub. So you can find the solutions related, for example, to clinical research and clinical practice, medicine, information. So these are actually subscription based resources, but you can get access to them. You can request access on personal level, on individual basis. If you need, if you are working on drug discovery, for example, you can have access to Pathway Studio. You can have access to Pure, which is it is our solution to actually define expertise and see how collaborations are ongoing, globally speaking. And there are more resources that will be added. Reaxis is a chemistry-based solution, or Veridata, which is another solution that can help with collecting data from clinical trials and patient-related studies as well. So even if you need something that is subscription-based from Elsevier that is not currently provided, you can request it on an individual level or a researcher level using the Coronavirus Research Hub. It should be accessible to you. It's open till the end of October. Another thing is, if there is any other solution that you would need us to help you with on an institutional level, please reach out to us. We'll connect you with the relevant teams who can actually help with a trial if needed, as long as you feel that this resource is going to be helpful to you during the current pandemic, during the current lockdown. So institutional, if you need institutional access on trial basis, for free, I can relate you to the relevant teams who could actually help with this on an institutional level as well. So that should conclude this part for the presentation. So I'm going to be now doing a quick demo for now to see how we could establish this kind of workflow. Remember that there are videos online you can refer to for ScienceDirect, for example, tutorials available there as well. So let's just, for now, let's start using ScienceDirect. And this is me using ScienceDirect from home. What I would need to do is just go to ScienceDirect.com, and I could go to the remote access activation page. You have the direct link for it, or if you scroll down and see the remote access part here, it would take me to this login page. It could look different based on your connection, but what I would need to put here is my institutional email. Once I put in my institutional email, I will receive a confirmation email to make sure that I am from the university that has been recognized by the institutional email, and then I could go in and sign in. If I don't have an institutional email, what I would need to do is go to sciencedirect.com/sign/register, and I will need to provide the registration ID and the passcode that has been provided to me by my librarian. Once I did so, I will be asked to sign in with my existing account on ScienceDirect, or to create a new account to be linked to those registration ID and passcode. Then my personal email could be recognized as part of the institutional subscription as well. So furthermore, so this is just, and I'll be giving a very quick overview on using ScienceDirect. Remember that you can create an account here, or you can sign in here. You can see if your connection has been identified as an institutional connection, whether you are on campus and using IP, or whether you're using your remote access option, either an institutional email or a registration code, by seeing this little icon here. If I click on it, I can see which institution is currently providing me with access. If there are no institutions linked, if I'm using ScienceDirect from home without any activation for remote access, I wouldn't be able to access this remotely as well. So that's one part to it. Another part is that you can always check what currently you are subscribed to. So if I go to journals and books, these are all the journals and all the books that has ever been published by Elsevier. I can download what's called the holdings report, which is going to be an Excel file containing all the list of Elsevier journals and all the books in an Excel file, and it can show you whether you are subscribed or not to this content. You can find journals as well. So for example, if I'm working on, let's say, material science, and my specific field is actually biomaterials, I can check which these are the journals and the books available. I can, for example, I can check journals, and I can check which of these journals is still currently active. And these are 31 journals, for example, that meet my very specific field on biomaterials and are still accepting submission as well. So that's one way to go with it. I could also do a search on any topic. So for example, let's say I'll do a topic on, let's say, for example, let's say dislocations, for example, or let's say for another example, let's say, let's say steel dislocations, for example. If I want both words connected to happen at the same time, I can put "and" in here and do a search. So I'm looking for the word steel and the word dislocations, for example, and I'll find the articles here. I can do a bit of filtration by year, by article type, by publication title, by access type, or I can find by just journals in my subscription, for example. I can, if I'm signed in, I can only, if I'm signed in, I can click on multiple documents at the same time and request to download them all at once. Or I can go visit any of those articles. For example, let's say this one here. So I can go visit this article here. And one thing that we are currently working on is how to enhance your reading experience while you are reading a paper. So you can see here, the full text is available in a web format, and you can actually get access to the images included in this paper in a high resolution format as well. So instead of downloading the PDF and snipping that little picture out of it as well. Another thing that you can actually do is you can actually go to ScienceDirect topic pages earlier described by Hermila. Sometimes when an article has been published and it's available on the final version because sometimes we do have public articles available online before its actual publication date, so they are still part of the enhancement process. One of the things in the enhancement process is that we collect the technical terms and we establish a page for these. So for example, if I say here gross domain product, gross domestic product, for example, I can see that same page defined into multiple fields. If I'm working in economics, econometrics, and finance, I can check what are the data that will pertain to me with the definitions and excerpts of Elsevier books, whether or not you have Elsevier books that you can actually use. So that would be a quick overview on ScienceDirect. Remember that from the search results here, you can create a search alert, so you can ask for whenever there are new papers that are published that are part of the search results. Next, I'll be moving forward to Scopus now also for a quick demo as well. And one thing that relates to one of the questions that I've been asked is how do I avoid predatory journals? And one thing is you can, resorting to Scopus, doing your search on Scopus and finding papers on Scopus can actually help you only find high quality journals, because somebody is actively monitoring the database of Scopus, making sure that all the journals are working honestly and no journals are resorting to predatory behavior. If a journal, and we've seen this before, some honest journals turned into predatory behavior. Journals who turn into predatory behavior are kicked out of Scopus. For example, if I do a search on a specific topic here, for example, let's say I'll do a search on for example, let's say something like big data, for example, and cancer. Now I'm doing the search not only within what Elsevier publishes, I'm doing a search with all the publishing that is going on worldwide. And I'm using here also a Boolean operator as described by Hermila a bit earlier. It means that both technical terms has to happen at the same time. So I'm searching for research that links information or data science, a topic like big data, as well as life sciences on a topic like cancer, for example. So as I run this search here, I can see the results. So it's still, I'm getting a very trending topic in big data, and then recent topic with an application that is from another field. So there isn't much literature available yet. So it's still a young topic. But what I told you earlier is that you can know that all the search results you got here come from journals that are indexed into Scopus under the source tab here, that you can trust them, that these are not predatory journals for you. And you can see here, you can do filtration from this tab on the left, or you can get actually some statistics. So you can see here, for example, if I pull out the keywords, these are all the keywords mentioned in all the papers that came up in the search results. So I can see here a map of all the keywords, and this can help me identify which topics I could work on this. So for example, I'm seeing the statistics here, and I can see, for example, that as I go, yes, human, that makes sense. Big data, humans, article, predatory, priority journal, disease, okay. And then there is data mining. So for example, if I'm a computer scientist, I would know that people who tackle the research with combining big data and cancer focused on data mining, for example, and machine learning, and these were the most important keywords on this topic. If I'm a cancer scientist, I can see that genomics and genetics play an important part of this research, but you can also see that breast cancer, for example, at Waze was the most mentioned type of cancer in the keywords of the publication on this matter. Compared, for example, if you look here, so there are 123 papers that were done combining big data and cancer, and they focused on breast cancer compared to only 40, for example, on colorectal cancer here. So this kind of map that you see here can help guide you make decisions based on your research. I can select topics that are interesting to me and limit my research or refine my research to them, or I can omit topics that I'm not interested in. For example, I don't want anything related to, for example, data mining. I don't want data mining papers, so I just exclude any paper that has data mining in its keywords, for example. So I can do this kind of filtration with limit to and exclude till I have only the papers I would need to read. I can sort them by date. I can sort them by relevance, where Scopus uses a smart algorithm to actually help you determine which might be most relevant. Another approach is that if you're reading into a new topic, you can prioritize based on the document type. So I would be reading review papers, for example, before I start reading article papers. I could actually do a restriction by the number of the years, or I could see all those statistics in terms of an analysis if I click on Analyze Search Results. So when I click on Analyze Search Results, I get visualizations for all those statistics. So you can see here that this topic is actually growing well year over year. It's too early to count on 2020, so I can just remove it from the graph here. So I can actually see that this topic is actually gaining momentum. For example, I can see which journals are most interested in this kind of topic. These are credible, high quality journals that are indexed into Scopus. As you can see here, so there are, so this journal here, this red one, Lecture Notes in Computer Science, is very interested in the topic, but it hasn't published anything related in 2020, and 2019 was losing a bit of momentum, for example. But you can see here 2019, this journal, Advances in Intelligent Systems and Computing, has been picking a lot of interest, especially in 2020. So this journal has published in 2020, which is still not concluded, more on this topic than any journal in any year before that. So I would be looking a bit into this journal if I am looking for publications as well. And remember one thing, so you can see all the list of the journals that are available on Scopus. If you click on sources here, these are the list of all the journals that are indexed into Scopus. I can look for the journals by subject area, or I can look by title if I check publisher or ISSN. So if a journal sends me an email telling me that they are an honest to God journal, I can, and they are indexed and so on. So I could actually go to ISSN and search by the ISSN that they actually sent me. It's an identifier for a number. And remember one thing, having an ISSN does not mean that this journal should be trusted, really. So if you write children's book or comics, for example, these receive ISSN. It's just a registration number or a barcode number that you can handle all the time. So if I look by subject area, and for example, I select the topics for agriculture, looking for horticulture journals, for example, and I apply. I can see all the horticulture journals being ranked based on their impact on citations. I think I saw a question asking me that someone tried to activate their email. So someone tried to get access to Scopus or ScienceDirect using their professional email, so their institutional email, and it didn't work. If your institutional email is not recognized and it doesn't show you that they're sending you an email to make sure that you are from this university and they are writing the name of the university, if your institutional email is not recognized, please reach out to me all at once. I'll be giving you my email in just a few minutes. This is also important. If you are facing any kind of bugs at any time with any Elsevier solution, sometimes it's a browser compatibility thing. You could actually open an in-private window or an incognito window. So if you're using Google Chrome, press Ctrl-Shift-N. If you're using Firefox, for example, Ctrl-Shift-P, or Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer, you would click on Ctrl-Shift-P as well. You can see here all the journals that are being, according to rank, listed on this specific topic. It's important to check that this journal is still indexed into Scopus. There are journals that were indexed into Scopus, but we kicked them out because they failed to continue to comply with Scopus quality criteria. So it's not necessarily that they became a predatory journal, but even if they are not a quality journal anymore, they have problems adhering to strict Scopus quality standards, they will be kicked out. You can see here Scopus coverage year from 1947 to present. And there is actually more you could do on Scopus, but this is a topic for more specialized sessions onto Scopus itself. So you could look up your author profile here, or you can look up your institutional profile as well. One last thing before I conclude this session, and I'm sorry if I'll be overrunning for just a few minutes. So for example, if I go to, if I am using if I'm using a search engine, for example, something like, or I come up across research that's being published across any publisher website, whether it's Elsevier's or not. So for example, for this case, let me do a research on maybe something like Google Scholar, which is, once again, it's not an indexation engine. It's a search engine that looks like anything that looks like a paper. So you can find so it contains quality journals and low quality journals and sometimes predatory journals, because it looks for anything that looks online like a paper using uncurated smart algorithms as well. So for example, let me say here, I'm looking for research on immigration, for example, and this is the journal, and it belongs to any other publisher as well. So for example, if I'm opening this one and I need to add it to my Mendeley library as well as the full text for it, I could actually download the Mendeley web importer from mendeley.com. You can see here the Mendeley web importer. It will recognize what are the literature being mentioned on screen and check if the PDF can be obtained or not based on your current subscription and your current internet connection. So as I'm not subscribed to this publisher, I will not be able to get it, but it also recognizes journals that were mentioned in references, for example, as well. And I can add them to Mendeley if I'm doing this for any other paper as well. So let's open one of the papers from here. Sorry. So for example, let me check one of the papers here. So these are recommendations, for example, and you can also cite those using the Mendeley citation, but for this specific case, I'm gonna need to be looking for, so for example, this is a book chapter, should work, and since it covers COVID, it's accessible for anyone. If I click on the Mendeley web importer here, it will not only get me this, because my current connection can get me the PDFs. This is the main article here, and these are all the things that were mentioned in even the references, and it's checking if the PDF can be obtained, whether or not the PDF comes from Elsevier. It checks based on your current connection and your current subscriptions as well. So that should conclude this part of the demo as well. Sorry, I only have access to Elsevier content using my current internet connection, but you can see that the example stands. So now that we reach the end of our presentation here, if you need access to the recording or to the presentation materials, as well as to get certificates for attending this webinar.